All right, so today we're going to keep going with GCF. Yesterday, when we started talking about greatest common factor of let's go with greatest. So again, when we start to talk about greatest common factor or GCF, I'm not going to be writing out GCF, greatest common factor all the time, just be putting GCF. We talked about greatest common factor of 12 and 30. Your factors of 12 are 1 times 12. Again, these are the numbers that make up 12, or 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. Notice when I'm going through this, when I'm breaking down 12, I start going through, you always have 1 in itself. Then I was like, does 2 go into 12? Yes, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 4 is 12, and so on. And that's it then. 4 doesn't go in, or 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't go in, you got them all. For 30, you have 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. And again, when we talk about factors, for 30 there, 5 times 6 equals 30. Remember, it is a factor times a factor equals the product. 30 is your product. Okay, so again, factor times a factor equals a product. So we're thinking of factors. We're thinking about the numbers that make up 30. Okay, so 12 and 30, they have a lot of common factors. 2 goes into both, 3 goes into both, and then 6 goes into both. But we're looking for the greatest common factor, so that's why the answer is 6 here. GCF of 12 and 30 is 6. Okay, so that's what we talked about yesterday. You had the Schoology checkpoint on that. Today I want to start to move in when we have some variables. Okay, and the variables, quite honestly, are easier than dealing with the coefficients that you're going to have. Because again, the coefficients, there's lots of options with factors here, but you got to make sure you're picking the greatest common factor. So let's start off. So GCF of 8x squared and 18x. So first up, you want to think of the GCF of 8 and 18 is 2. Okay, 8, you got 1 and 8. 8 doesn't go into 18 now. Then you got 2 and 4. 4 doesn't go into 18. So 2 is going to be your GCF there. So then your GCF of x squared and x. Well, think about this. If x equals 3, that means x squared is going to be 9. And that means x is just 3. So your GCF of 3 and 9 is just 3. Greatest common factor of 3 and 9 is 3. So that's why, I don't put equal sign, is x. You're always going to go with the smaller exponent. Don't overthink this. Look at your x's. I have x squared and x. You got to go with your smaller exponent. This is x to the first. So your final answer, your GCF, is 2x. All right, let's just go all variables here. Let's say I gave you x to the 4th, y squared, and x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd. Okay, so this is one term right here, and this is the second term here. Your GCF, always go with the smaller exponents. Okay, so GCF. So the GCF will be the smaller exponent of each variable. So up here, x to the 4th and x to the 3rd, my GCF is going to be x to the 3rd. I got to go with the smaller one. Then I have y squared and y to the 3rd. I got to go with the smaller one. So y squared. Again, like if x was equal to 2 and y was equal to, let's say 5. Up here, x x to the fourth would be 16. Y squared would be 25. So again, that was x to the fourth, and that was y squared. X to the third would be 8. Y to the third, sorry, I don't have any white out. Y to the third would be 125. So when you start to think about your GCF of 16 and 8, 8 goes into 16, so that's why your GCF was x to the third. With your y's, you got 25 and 125. 25 goes into 125. So that's why I was going with the smaller of the exponents here. All right, but that's your answer right there. All right, so something like this, 20x to the fourth, 14x squared, 24x to the fifth. Your GCF is going to be, you look at your factors of 20, you have 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. With 14, not too many options there. 1 times 14, 2 times 7, 24, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Your GCF here is going to be 2. And then you got to pick your smallest exponent. I have x to the fourth, x to the second, x to the fifth. So you're going with your x squared. And your last one. So we have the GCF of 12x to the fifth, y squared, 18x squared y, and 42xy to the fifth. So first up, your GCF is going to be with 12, 18, and 42. Your GCF there is 6. Okay, if you want to write all those out, you have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, 18. You have 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, and then 42, you have 1 times 42, 2 times 21, 3 times 14, and 6 times 7. So 6 is going to be my GCF there. Then you go to your x's. You have x to the fifth, x squared, and x to the first, which is going to be an x. Then you have y squared, y, and y to the fifth, so it's just going to be a y. And that's your final answer. All right, so I'm going to give you some practice problems for today. As always, let me know if you have any questions. Please email me. All right, have a good day.